My name is Len Gumley. I'm a retired World War II glider pilot. I served in World War II. I spent 27 years in the Air Force Reserve, retired as a lieutenant colonel. I crashed twice in my training after I got my commission in the World War II glider pilots and did not go overseas, which is probably why I'm still alive, because 1/3 of my class came back from Normandy.
Okay, I'm Marvin Mills, and I live here in Sarasota. I'm a veteran of World War II. I was a navigator on a B-24, such as you see here, and I was too young to go overseas, so after 2 years as a navigator in training, and then becoming a navigator, I was in Boise, Idaho, ready to join the Armada that was to attack Japan and bomb Japan when the atom bomb was dropped. And so they gave us the option of going home, and that was the end of my career as a navigator in the Army. I didn't see any action in all this time, but I loved navigation, and for me it was a terrific experience. And I feel a little guilty in that I got all the benefits of being in the Army, prestige and excitement, without any of the real risk involved. So that's pretty much my story.
I'm Darcy Cocozza, and my father, Dingness Verschuure, served in World War II in England, and he flew in the B-17 bomber. He operated the radio, and he flew at least 36 missions. And I'm very grateful for this opportunity because it gives me a whole different connection with my father than I had before, and because he's no longer with us, it's just very meaningful to me to be able to do this today.
My name is David L. Cohen, and I was in the Coast Guard and the Merchant Marine in 1941. I enlisted, and I sailed in the Atlantic Ocean, the Baltic Sea, the Mediterranean, the Adriatic Sea, and all the ports around the Middle East. And I made the Murmansk runs one time in Russia, and we had to leave the ship there and flew back because of the Nazis shooting down and sinking our ships in the Straits of Norway. And it's great to be down here, being here in the United States, back and alive. I was a third mate, did most of the navigation on Liberty ships, Victory ships, and a couple of troop carriers.
Marshal Friedman, flew in the big war, flew off of aircraft carriers. I flew the Navy fighters, and I spent a lot of time with that, that's for sure. And I'm still here, so the years I spent on a couple of aircraft carriers, and I flew once in Atlantic, and then I also flew in the Pacific period there. And, finally, the time came when I could retire. That was a good time too when I left. But I put a number of years in service. I have no complaints.
My name is Harvey Gochberg. I work in the U.S. Army, serviced. Did my service during the years 1960 through 66. It was an interesting program. It was a 6 months active duty training, along with 6 years of reservist. And the one aspect about those years, this was during that time period when Cuba was presenting a tremendous problem for us, not just a problem, it was dangerous. And Khrushchev, who was at that time chairman of the Communist Party in Russia, which was called the Soviet Union, I believe, already at that time, what he did was helped arm the Cuban nation with what we were sure was atomic weapons. They were missiles, without question. We had photographs of the missiles. I was with an intelligence unit, and we got to see some of these photographs, not all of them, but got to see some of them. And it was quite obvious that there was a buildup of nuclear and atomic weapons being done.
Action. I'm Troy Scott. I am a colonel, retired from the Army Reserve. I serve as the president of the Military Officers Association of Sarasota. I'm a Vietnam-era vet. We didn't have this type of aircraft in Vietnam. We had mostly C-123s and C-130s, which succeeded this aircraft. But this is a historic event. It's really great to have the opportunity to come down here and ride on one of these. I've always heard so much about them from my father, from other people in the neighborhood where I grew up when I was a kid, and have a lot of respect for the people that flew these, and a lot of respect for these aircraft and for the people that put them together. It's amazing they're still flying at this day. They're 60 to 70 years old, most of the aircraft, and they're still running well. I am very grateful for this opportunity, and thank you.
Your name? Paul Kovitz. I was a maintenance officer at a B-17 squadron in England for 2 years. We were bombing the Nazis, and every time one of these airplanes went down, 10 of our men went down with it, and we lost a lot of people in those airplanes. And while I was over there, I found myself with a wife. We got married in 1944, so it'll be 70 years this December that we were married in Ipswich, which was not far from our base. And after I retired, I put 23 years in the Air Force and retired as a lieutenant colonel. And we used to go back to England every year for about 3 months because my wife had a big family, and we could stay with her sisters and brothers. The prices on the hotels were very expensive, and we couldn't afford it if we didn't have someplace to stay. And Dave and I have been coming to these airplane shows every time they have one here in town.